Hello, everybody. My name is August, and you are listening to the Quarterdeck Sailing Podcast. Andy Shell is on the lookout for a new boat, and in this episode, he's sharing his exciting journey with all of us. We do a pretty good job here of describing the boats and the things that we are looking at, but if you want to see us as well as hear us, we filmed this one, and Andy shared his screen during recording, and you can see the full video on the quarterdeck. That's at quarterdeck.59-north.com. The video is a part of an article about the boat hunt, and there are links to all of the listings we mentioned, as well as high-res pictures that Andy took during surveys. Sign up right away, and you will get a 2-week free trial. Hope you enjoy this. If hearing us and seeing us still just isn't enough for you, if you want to feel and smell us, you can get the full sensory experience at the Annapolis Sailboat Show, October 10th to the 14th. Andy will be there, me will be there, I will be there, and you can sail with us, you can party with us, join our sailing seminar, all sorts of fun stuff, and the details are all available at 59-north.com/boat show. Hope to see you there. Looking fantastic this morning, Andy. You've got a little bit of stubble going on there, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's great.
Well, I'm glad you're seeing me through the camera and not sitting next to me, because I haven't showered since the gym yesterday, and I haven't shaved in 3 days. So I feel like a bum right now. But you know what? That's what you get when you get to work from home.
Very true. Very true. Yes, I have. I'm very happy about the lower resolution of this particular camera that I'm using right now, because it's been a few days since I showered as well, to be honest. So
hey, boat life, kid life, there you go. The question, though, the real question I have is, did you unclog Eastbjorn's head yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no.
Yet.
Oh, no.
Is
that for lack of trying, or is it that difficult?
It's still fermenting.
Okay.
Let me say that. No, it's just I've been so busy. Really, that's the thing. And it's like it requires like a whole day. I'm not gonna go in there and get halfway covered in shit and then I have to pack down and leave now. I'll do the rest tomorrow. So I need a full day. You know, the weather's gonna be right and. Yeah, I need to pick up some gear and stuff.
The last time I unclogged Eastbjorn's head was in 2017, anchored in the Aran Islands west of Galway Bay in Ireland. And we had the dinghy, and same thing. I was like, we need the whole day. I said to the crew, I'm going to drop you off ashore, and I'm keeping the dinghy, and I'm not picking you up until this is done. So you are stranded ashore until this is finished. So I totally can relate to that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, so that's going to be fun. So yeah, we'll see. No, so I'm in my office here, and I am really dying to hear about your boat shopping quests, Andy. I haven't asked you anything the last couple of days, just to make this all kind of fresh, live on the podcast, so to speak. But you are indeed shopping for a new boat.
I am. Yes, we're boat shopping. You said it best. There's nothing better than boat shopping, and the worst thing about buying a boat is that the shopping is over.
Exactly.
Although, as all boat owners know, it's never actually over. You're always looking. But no, yes, we're shopping in earnest, and I didn't think we'd be here because I really, really love our Norene 34. I love it. I've said many times publicly that it's my favorite of our 3 boats. And I still think that. I love the way it sails. It's such a cool boat. It's very unique. But it's not a great, livable family boat as Axel gets older. And there's a lot of things I want to do to Spica to make it a better livable family boat. An autopilot, for example. With Axel running around, Mia and I are single-handing all the time. That boat's really easy to single-hand, but it would be a lot easier to have an autopilot. Just for example, getting from Malaren all the way to Stockholm is like a full-day sail. And I can't do that by myself well, I could, but it would be exhausting. So Mia and I have to do it together, or I have to get help. It's like, so small things like that start to add up when you look at like the list of projects you want to do starts to add up. And it occurred to us like, all right, well, we really like the boat. We're probably going to do this, but should we look at what else is out there? Maybe something exists that we like that is, already has all this other stuff, and that we could just kind of figure out what else to do with Spica, sell it as is because it's a really nice, fun sailboat, and we've already done a lot to it. And then once I kind of cracked that seal of like, all right, I'm gonna go on Blocket and actually look. I mean, I got lost down a rabbit hole. It is the boat shopping is truly, truly the best. It is the best. It is so much fun trying to figure out, and like I've said this too, like, and actually, so weirdly, August, I have never, including the boats for the business, I have never actually been boat shopping. I've been boat buying.
Really?
Like, we bought so our first boat, Arcturus, going back to that, we bought Arcturus in 2008. It was an Allied Seabreeze yawl. And I saw an ad in the back of Spin Sheet magazine, Annapolis's like local sailing magazine. And obviously I'd been looking at boats. I lived on my dad's boat at the time. My mom and dad's boat was a Vauquier Hood 38. I guess we shopped to buy that, but that wasn't my boat. It was my parents' boat. And like, I saw this ad. It looked really cool. And I said to Mia, let's go look at it. We drove across the bridge. As soon as I pulled into the marina, it was hauled out. I saw the hull shape, and I was like, we're buying it. That's it. We're buying it. And we did. We didn't look at another boat. We bought it, and it was beautiful. And everything, it was renovated. It was awesome. We bought it. So then Eastbjorn comes around. Me and I were trying to set up the business, thinking of what to do it. And I knew a Swan 48 was a cool boat. Looked them up on Yacht World. Saw this blue one called Patriot that had been in Annapolis when I was working on the Woodwind. Went to Connecticut, looked at it, bought it. Didn't look at a single other boat.
This is so true to character, Andy. This is just the Andiest way to do it.
Ready, fire, aim, man.
There we go. We got it.
And so then Ice Bear, we're up in Spitsbergen. We're with the Delos clan. I'm getting inspired. Maybe we can do 2 boats with the business. Find this Swan 59 on Yacht World that I knew existed because we'd met it in the Ark before. Called the owner on the dock in Longyearbyen, and right there on the spot on the dock made a deal to rent the boat. Sight unseen. I hadn't even seen it, let alone looked at other boats. Now, I didn't buy it. I made a deal to rent it, and then like a rent to buy. And then after we got it and used it for half a season, then we bought it. But there was no shopping. And then again, sailing Ice Bear from Sweden to England, and we get into Portsmouth, and Nikki's with me, and I was like, "Hey, Nikki, there's this FAR 65 for sale that I've had my eye on for a while. Do you want to go look at it?" We went and looked at it. Didn't look at a single other boat. And we bought it. So I've never actually properly been boat shopping. And I think the only reason I'm doing it now is because I already own a boat. So I don't have that fear of missing out. Like, if I don't do this immediately, I'm going to miss the perfect opportunity because I already have a boat. So it's allowed me, and also I've been working on that aspect of my personality, as you know, August, to sort of like think before I act and do this. And it's made my relationships better with friends, family, and coworkers. And I'm trying to do this in a deliberate way. And I also, because of this Ready, Fire, Aim thing that I've done, pretty much every single one of those boats that I just listed that I said we bought, except for Arcturus, has had underlying problems that have come back to haunt me in the end. Falcon hasn't, because we rebuilt it in the first place. But like Eastbjorn had a lot of stuff we worked through that we, could have seen it had I looked at the boat with more of a objective gaze when we first looked at it that snowy day in Connecticut. Ice Bear, same deal. Spica, for sure. I mean, we did a lot to Spica. But I was just blinded by emotion. Like, I fell in love and I had to have it. No matter what, I had to have it. And I'm doing it differently this way. And what I'm finding is very, very interesting, because I have found boats and models that I've never heard of before, knew nothing about, that I'm like, this is really interesting. This is really cool. And we've already been to see, I've been on board 3 different boats already in the last week. And, I haven't bought one yet.
Nice.
I'm close.
That's great.
But I haven't.
That's great. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I'm proud of you, Andy. This is great. I mean, it's a very smart way to do it for sure, and also so much fun to be looking at many boats and really drag that out. Whenever I've been boat shopping in my life, I've spent, you know, years just like looking, studying, and yeah, like I don't want to buy a boat because that means that I'm no longer in the market, and that makes me sad. So
Yep.
it is a very enjoyable process. So I'm very happy that you're savoring it.
Maybe this is the real reason 59 North exists. It's just an excuse for me to own many boats at the same time because I have a problem.
maybe.
So
it's a good solution.
But what's cool too, I'm in like also the time and place right now. I've said this many times that like and Blockit's not like a boat website. It's just it's like Craigslist if you're listening in America. It's a classified ads website here in Sweden, but everybody sells their boats on Blockit, and it is just a treasure trove of lots of shitty old boats, but lots of cool boats too. And like, so you have that. Blockit's such a cool place to boat shop. It's also the fall. So like prices are plummeting because everyone's like, oh shit, I got to put my boat away for the winter. How about I give you a Höstfynd, which is like the fall price, get a big discount so I don't have to deal with it for the winter. So like prices are good right now. Boats are popping up left and right because no one wants to put them away. It's the end of the season. And it's just this like perfect storm of like just this amazing. And then the other added benefit of Blockit is like, there's a very like nicer, more expensive boats are sold through brokers here, but not the kind of boats I'm looking at. So you're just dealing with their owners, and it's so much more pleasant than. And actually, one of the boats I looked at that we're going to talk about today, this Norene 37, was with a broker, and broker was super super nice, but it was just a stupid experience. Like I don't want to deal with a broker. I just want to buy a boat from the guy who sails it and knows it, and not have to go through a broker. So that's a pleasant experience as well.
For sure, yeah, it's the exact same in Norway. Same situation. We have a website that's exactly the same as Blocket. It's Finn .no, and it's the exact same thing. All owners selling their boats and everything else under the sun, like anything that you want to buy.
I have. So what's really bad? I don't know if it's the Norwegian sites like this, but we're not like I have an account on Blocket. When I go to the homepage, it's like Utvalgt for day. That's like chosen special for you. Yeah. And it's a mix of sailboats, golf clubs, Jeep parts, and like LP record players, all this. And it's like, it's dangerous. Cause it's like, look what our Blockit AI has discovered for you. And I'm just like, oh, this does look like me. This sounds like a great idea.
It is dangerous. It's very dangerous for sure. So, yeah, but it is a great place to shop for boats and it's the perfect time, just like you said. Another factor that's really affecting the prices in Norway, possibly also in Sweden, I would think, is that the summer has been dreadful over here. We had a rain and wind record in August, and it's been a really gray and gnarly summer, and a lot of owners are questioning their boat ownership at the moment now with the fall storms just on the doorstep, and it's a really good time to be buying a boat.
Yep. So so I'm excited to share with you the things I've found. There's a whole bunch. There's a list of boats I want to run through just to give you I'll give you guys an idea of like what are the boats on my radar that I'd actually consider buying. And then I want to talk about two specifically that I went to look at on Monday, about 2 hours south of here.
Very cool. I'm dying to see them.
So all right, so I've got my this. So this is fun. So I've got Blockit in front of me here, and just to give you an idea, Utvalgt for day. There's a carbon fiber steering wheel. There is a couple life jackets. There's a Trump boat, which is a pedal boat, like one of those things you see in like Baltimore Harbor, like a little with the look at this. It's a little. So
they know you so well.
It knows
Andy.
me so well. It's a little.
Look at that!
Boat.
That is adorable. Yeah. Oh, it's got a little bimini on it. That is fantastic.
So that's been chosen for me. There's a couple Helly Hansen life jackets. There's a Ebersprocher hydronic heater. There's rostfria shackles, so stainless shackle collection. There's a life raft, another steering wheel, another life raft, a whole big collection of hi-fi stereos. all sorts of fun stuff on here. So anyway, if I go to my account and my sparade annoncer, so my saved listings here, we'll run down the list here. And this is in no particular order. Actually, I think it's in the order with which I clicked the little heart icon. We've got a Beneteau First 36.7 that's listed at 750,000 crowns from 2002. Cool boat, more money than I would have spent.
And so the crown is about 1 to 10.
It's about 10, yeah. So $75,000. Yeah, it's easy math. Then we've got an Allegro 33 for 320,000 crowns, so $32,000. That's like a West Sail 32, kind of full keel, very cruisy, like your Storfidra but bigger.
It's very similar to the Storfidra.
Then we've got
also really cool.
Another Colin Archer, fiberglass Colin Archer, which is super cool, but it's got wooden spars and it's like giant. $32,000. A Hansa 401. I can't believe I would have looked at a Hansa, but this is a Judel Vrolik designed Hansa 401. It looks fucking awesome. Too big though. I don't want a 40-foot boat. That's $77,000. We've got a Facile 35. That's one of the boats I never heard of before. We'll come back to this because the Facile 35 was the predecessor, I learned, to the Arcona 355, which is a Swedish-built boat that we actually like a lot. That's for $270,000, so $27,000. Now we're getting in range here. Like I think we paid $190 for the Norene 34 for Spica, so that's kind of the range we're looking at. There's an Alban Stratus, which is for $39,000. That's another Peter Norene design. That's 35 feet long. Nice. Really, really nice. There's actually three of them I have saved, all in Stockholm, between 340 and 420, so between 34 and 42,000. There's a Puzzle 36. Never heard of that. Still have no idea what it is. That's listed at $38,000. Interesting. There's another Norene 34. I always save them just to see what's out of curiosity. There's so these are one of my favorite Swedish boats. It's called a Loreen Coaster. So it's I think his name was Arvid Loreen. It's like another double-ended, real salty looking. They're very small though. They're like 28 feet. This one's catch rigged, but they have that like. The hull to deck joint is like rounded. It looks like a submarine almost, and they have a big flush deck and a little pilot house back aft.
Oh, yeah. We call them, I'm not sure how that translates, but we call it a whale deck in Norwegian.
Yeah. They're really, really pretty boats. Very, like, just look like seaworthy, like really seaworthy.
Yeah,
that one's
my Storfidra had that too. It's like great look. Lots of tumble home and then that whale deck on top.
That one's $25,000. Then we have an Ola Enderline 32, an OE 32. That's another full keel, similar to your Storfidra, for $27,000. They're a classic. Like real Ola Enderline was the designer that when Hallberg-Rassy first started, Ola Enderline was their designer before German Freers took over. So the early Hallberg-Rassy boats were Ola Enderline boats. Then we have an OE 36, another Ola Enderline. This is one of the ones I looked at. We're gonna dive deep on this. I have 4 of those saved actually, and they range between 160 and 415. Then we have another Facile 35, an Omega 36. That's another Norene design, also a very cool boat. A Fingolf 36, never heard of that. Built in Finland, looks super cool. They're a little more expensive, $65,000. They're a later model, like early 90s. Then we have an Arcona 36. Arcona still builds boats in Sweden, and that's actually probably the nicest boat on my list, but it's also $75,000, so that's kind of out of range. And also a little bit bigger than we need, because we're starting to get this Arcona 36 is a lot more modern, so it's going to be, all the dimensions are expanded. It's got a lot more interior volume, 2 aft cabins. It's a much, much bigger boat that we don't really need at this point.
Yeah.
Then we've got an Arcona 321. You can see my list is it's a lengthy list.
It's you've been at it, Andy. This is great.
I will figure out a way to share this actual list on the quarterdeck. So those of you listening and want to actually see all the listings for this boat, I'll link to all this stuff. So then we come to the Arcona 355. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we come to the Norene 37. That's the real sort of dream boat. That's basically a bigger version of what we already have. And our boat is often mistaken for a Norene 37 because Spica has it's a modified 34, so it has a flush foredeck and a much different coach roof that looks very similar to the 37. And the 37 is considered Peter Norlene's like all-time best, most beautiful design. So that's like the real desirable one.
It's a classic 3-foot syndrome.
It's exactly what my dad said.
34 to 37.
It's exactly what my dad said. It's a much bigger boat, though. I was on board. So that's the other one we're going to dive deep on because I was on board that the other day. And it's big. It's bigger than we need. Then we've got a Scanmar 345. Oh, this is a fun one. This one's actually really cool. This is called a Gambler 35. There's two of these, and they were like boatyard built hulls and owner built interiors, and they are all over the place with the quality. But there's one.
So would you say that buying one would be quite the gamble?
Don't do it. No. Oh my God, Zing! All right, can we just end the podcast like forever? It's over. That's it. We can't do better than that. But they're very cool. It's a 35-foot boat for, there's two of them on here for $23,000, $25,000. I think they're worthy contenders. Then we have a Daler 35, an Omega 36. Oh, I still got an old Willys Jeep on here saved. Then we have a Comfortina 38 and a Comfortina 35. The Comfortina 35 is like that's kind of like newish, over $1 million crowns. So that's like out. And then if we were going to buy a third boat for 59 North, this would be the one. It's an Opal 46. It's a schooner, a Stacel schooner, the same rig as Woodwind. It is immaculate, gorgeous on the West Coast. It's only one of 5 that built. My friend John happens to have, him and his dad own twin sister ships in Stockholm, and they are magnificent. And this guy took 20 years to build this boat, built it himself, and it is stunning. Wow. And it's only asking $83,000. Like, it is a steal. But we don't need a third boat for 59 North, and I don't need a 46-footer for my family boat. But fuck, would I like to have a Stacel schooner? Oh my God.
That would have been great. It'll be a little retirement project.
Oh, dude, it is. And also the other reason I'll never own a boat like this, even though I would drool, is it's got the entire deck is covered in teak, and the coach roof is varnished cabin sides. The cockpit's fully varnished. It's like a maintenance nightmare, but it is sexy. Holy moly, is it sexy! And then the last one on my list here is an X Yachts X332. Another one that's just too expensive. That's like $975. So a lot of these are sort of I just saved because they're cool boats. Like this Comfortina, I'd never heard of that before. Really nice boat, kind of on par with Halbergrassi quality. It's gorgeous, really cool, sportier looking, but yeah, just expensive.
Those are really great. I have one of my neighbors here has one, a 35, I think.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, he's done the Shetland race a couple of times, and he's sailing around the bay here. I've been along with him a few times. It's a really, really nice boat.
Yeah, there's always a handful of them in Gotland Runt, and they were originally built in Sweden and now built in Germany, I believe. There's a couple for sale. If you've got a bigger budget, it's a hell of a nice 35-foot boat. And I'll tell you what, man, like 90% of the boats I just read down the list, I had never heard of before. So it's, I come from, my dad and I always used to pride ourselves on, my dad was like the king at this, and I got pretty good at it, of being able to like see a boat and immediately identify what it is. And that learning only applies to me in the U.S. or on the Chesapeake Bay specifically, like where I grew up. Because over here, there's a million, I didn't even know, like this Norene 34 we own. The story with that is I didn't know who Peter Norene was. And when we sailed Arcturus here, I kept seeing all these really cool boats, and they all had a little N logo on the front of the cove stripe. And I was like, what are those? And I did it's like, oh, that's a Norene. It's like, oh shit, Peter Norene is like the king over here. Like, this is great. So I started learning all this. And then like with this list, my sister got me for Christmas or my birthday one year, it's a book about that fat, about 4 inches fat. And it's called The Encyclopedia of Yacht Designers. And it's exactly that. So, this one Arcona is designed by this guy named Stefan Quibari. And I was like, all right, well, who is he? And I look him up in the Encyclopedia of Yacht Designers, and it gives you this whole history and stuff. It's just so, this is just what makes this so much fun. It's so fun.
Totally. Yeah. Very nice. Man, that is that's a good list. A very diverse list too, I'd say. Like it's did you have going into this, did you have any kind of specs in mind, or did you have any kind of list that you were looking at? Because this is all over the place, really.
It is. And I'm glad you noticed that, because that's intentional. I wanted to look at this very open-minded, because when we got, all the boats. So first of all, my criteria, like to own a boat, it's got to be a cool, unique boat that has some kind of story behind it. Like I was joking with Mia. It's kind of unfortunate that all the boats I really, really like are all 50 years old. Yeah. So it had to be just cool. It didn't necessarily have to have a story, but it has to be cool. It has to look cool. It's got to have my friend Tom, one of the partners in the Canon business. He calls it the cool factor. It's got to have cool factor. And like he doesn't appreciate as you get older, you tend to discount the cool factor in exchange for the practical factor. And I'm also like doing that myself a little bit. You'll come to see shortly. But it's got to still have, I still value the cool factor. And like Spike is the coolest boat of all. Like it's got cool factor. But then I also, as Axel's getting older and we're sort of, if you listen to the podcast on the Wind I did with Emma, I'm trying to reprioritize my life and work. And I want to be home now for the summers. And Axel's daycare is closed for the month of July. And instead of us trying to find babysitters and going to do stuff and traveling, we're just going to sail. We want to go sailing. We want to be a sailing family, and we want to live on the boat for at least that month when his school's closed, maybe even the whole summer. And so we want a boat that is livable, like more of a cruise. Like I can't believe I'm saying it, but a cruising boat. Like Spica was built as a racing boat, and in those days you could also live on them. It was the racer cruiser. I even wrote an article in Sail Magazine about why can't we have racer cruisers now, like a boat that's really fun to sail but that you can still live on. That's kind of gone away. You have one or the other now, like in the extreme. So it had to be livable, and that's why this OE32, for example, or the Colin Archer, like cool factor out the wazoo, like really cool boats. They're not going to be nearly the sort of performance sailboat that Spica is, that the Norene is, but they're going to be very comfortable to live on because they're just bigger. So I really tried to be open-minded about that when I made this list to kind of meet those boxes. So I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up the cool factor, but I'm looking for a little bit more of the practical factor. And then the last part of this, and this is where when we dive deep on this, is I learned my lesson about buying old boats that needed to be refit. And I've long preached, you and I have preached when we've done these boat shopping things before, the best deals are where you find, the best value is where you find a boat that someone else has plowed a lot of energy into that is selling for some reason. And, usually the best deals price-wise are like if someone dies and it's an estate sale. That's, price-wise the best deal. Or somebody's just getting out of sailing. You get a boat that's been outfitted to go around the world and then their plans change. And those are so I was really, my radar was out for all right, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to find one of these boats. I'm going to find the boat that is undervalued because it's old and or nobody knows what it is, but it's been extremely well taken care of. And you're going to see, I think I found it. I think I did. I think I found it.
Very neat. That is that's the beauty also of shopping, like buying boats from owners and without having the brokers in between, is you can really find those gems that you wouldn't get otherwise, like you would with
Yep, exactly.
It's a good way to do things.
So a couple more things before we get into the two that made the list of I'm going to go see these. Actually, we saw three. One was kind of by coincidence because we happened to be in the same marina the other day. But that list I made, the really fun way that Block It algorithm works is I went into that specifically searching, like the Alban Stratus I knew about. I was looking for one of those. And I would highlight some of these that I knew I wanted. And then as I started liking and saving some of these boats, then the algorithm was like, hey, you like that? I think you'll like this. And then I'm like, oh, you're right. I do like that. And then what else might I like? So 90% of those boats, seriously, like I would just lay on the couch at night after Axel go to sleep, and I would go to that Chosen for You page. And as I liked stuff, more and more stuff kept popping up on that page, and that's where most of those boats came from.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And a little creepy, but mostly cool.
Like that Arcona, the Arcona 36. If we were like going to buy like a cruising boat that actually like go live aboard longer term and go far, that would probably be the one. And I didn't even know that existed until the other day. It's really, really cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, and you could probably trust that because they probably based that algorithm on what other people who like what you like also like, right?
Sure.
So, and they will be into that. So it's a really cool way to find boats.
Yeah,
and and I agree with you. As you know, you gotta have that cool factor. You gotta have something that you love. And a lot of people say that when you're shopping for boats, you should like not be emotional and you should like be super pragmatic and just lock your heart up and all that. And although there is some merit to that, and you need to be objective and a little cool-headed, it's also it is an emotional decision. Like it's never gonna be a financially smart decision to buy a boat. So I think it needs to be. You need to find something that's cool and find something that you love really, and then you'll figure out all the other stuff. If you love it, you're just gonna figure it out. It's kind of like choosing a spouse, I guess. It's
I mean, it literally is. It is like you can't. I told a friend of mine just bought a Beneteau 373 a couple weeks ago in Annapolis. In fact, I'm helping him move it from the Chesapeake down to North Carolina in November.
Cool.
But I told him because he's like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "It's cool. Like it's practical. It's a great family boat, but I wouldn't have bought it. It doesn't have enough cool factor for me." And I asked him, I was like, "Are you sure you love it? Because if like it's gonna be a fucking pain in the ass no matter what. But if you love it, you'll accept the hassle. If you don't love it, you're gonna be frustrated every step of the way."
Exactly.
Because it's always gonna be a hassle. It is. It's a hassle. But owning a boat is a fucking hassle. But if you love it,
Yep.
I don't want to say that having a wife or a partner is also a fucking hassle, but it is sometimes. And if you love it, you can get over that. Like, it's true. Like Mia and I fight a lot, and we still love each other, so those fights are easy.
Yeah, there you go. Also, kind of reminds me, or draws some interesting parallels to the reason why I'm kind of sitting a bit weirdly skewed on my desk here. My office desk is full of a disassembled Mauser rifle. I was in my gun safe the other day when I was going off to the army. I noticed a little bit of rust on the old Mauser, and I had to take it apart to clean it, and never. It took up too much time and is now disassembled in 1,000 pieces on my desk. And that is also, it's the same Mauser that it's the reason why it's how we met. It's took that to Svalbard, and that's a Mauser K98 because it was developed in not 1998 but 1898.
Wow.
And it is something. It's still a fantastic gun, but it's a lot of hassle. It rusts easily for one, but it gives you. It's something else to take care of something that's that old and has that much history to it, and it kind of makes it feels great.
Well, I'm gonna if we end up buying another boat, I'm gonna have a lot of anxiety about Spica because. One of the things I love about what we've done with 59 North is we've taken these old boats and given them a new life. and like I'm afraid of what's going to happen to Spica, the Norene 34. If I don't take care of it, who will? It's like an old horse. We can't just shoot it. Like, man.
Yeah. You gotta find the right buyer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that is also true for the other end of the table with whom you're gonna buy one of these beautiful boats from, and they're not only gonna look at how much you're gonna pay for it, but also look at if they think you're gonna be able to take care of their baby in a proper way.
Right there is actually an interesting thing, because of these two boats, we should finally dive into these two boats. But of the two boats, one was sold by owner or for sale by owner, the other's through a broker. And like I don't know if this is a leap too far, but like the guy that is selling it himself clearly loves the boat, and the other guy clearly doesn't, or it's just not. They weren't even remotely similar in condition, and it's just like, well, if he doesn't care enough to like actually talk to me and tell me the history of the boat, how good is the boat? It's like, things that you don't know about. Anyway, let's talk about these boats. Let's talk about both these boats. We've got the Norene 37, was built in 1975, and then we have the Ole Enderlein 36. OE 36 was built in 1971. Which one do you want to start with? I'll let you pick.
Let's start with the 37.
All right. So of these two, the 37, when Mia and I were having these conversations, we're like, all right, we found this 37. If we're going to buy another boat, this is clearly the one. Like, this is actually, let's not bother looking at this long list. Like, what we really want is this Norene 37. And we both got really excited about it. I'm gonna share my screen here. I believe,
yes, please,
we're gonna publish this as a video podcast, I think. And if not, I'll link to these images that I'm going to talk about, and I'll do my best for the audio listeners to describe what I'm seeing. But what I want to do here, August, is kind of go through the boat in general, but also go through my thought process in what am I looking at? How do you, we've done this in the past. Like, how do you forensically analyze a boat listing in both text and photos? So here we go. So here's the Norene 37 from 1975. Can you see my screen, August?
Yes.
All right. So we'll just go to the, we called it the annonsförslag. That's the photos that were laid out in the Blocket advertisement. So that's the boat. Objectively beautiful, timeless, super classy boat. I have a book about Peter Norene and his design career, and it's pretty much unanimously agreed that this is his most beautiful design. And he mentions, interestingly, from like a nerdy boat design perspective, that it's only at 11 meters length overall and above that you can actually properly design the proportions on an aesthetically pleasing boat. Because under that, you don't have enough room to make it like both livable and look nice. And he's talking about a cruising boat. So like, if you notice in this boat, the cabin top ends just forward of the mast. So you have like a really beautiful proportion of hull, foredeck, and coach roof. Now, most modern cruising boats have ignored those kind of guidelines on beauty and taken that coach roof as far forward as possible for interior living space. But back in the 70s, it was just assumed that the boat wasn't going to be as comfortable as your house. So people were fine with not having standing headroom in the forepeak, for example. And it produced a boat that was objectively gorgeous, like this is. So she is really pretty. This is the boat. Another angle there of the nice transom. Incidentally, this is exactly the same hull shape and coach roof as our Norene 34, but again, over that 11 meters, you notice from this angle the nice shear of the boat. That's basically the swoop from like the bow back to the stern. It has a very progressive shear line, and that adds a lot of beauty to a boat. A boat that has a straight shear sometimes actually appears that it has a reverse shear, and some modern race boats actually have a reverse shear as like a style thing. But this is considered like classically beautiful shear line.
It is beautiful. It is.
Cool thing about this, so this is the cockpit. The cockpit was renovated. That's cork in the cockpit, and I was aboard, and it's beautiful and wonderful and looks really nice, but is like glued down, not teak. Really cool. So we've got like 6 winches in the cockpit. Love that. All the lines from the mast come back to the winches on the coach roof, and you've got primaries and secondary winches in the cockpit. There's actually 2 more winches that run the Traveler that are immediately in front of the helm that you can't see in this photo. So like kind of what I like, lots of winches, lots of options for lines. Like this is going to be a fun boat to sail, and you've got all the sail controls that you want. Coming down below, we've got the galley on port. So that's your companionway just there out of the photo on port. Looking forward, very similar interior to Spica. You've got settee berths, pipe bunks outboard of that. And then you've got sort of storage, and then behind the door in the forepeak is just a V-berth bunk. The head is to the right in this photo, out of the photo. There's also a little nav station just opposite the sink. And then you've got 2, there's the head, inside the head. You've got 2 quarter berths, so 1 quarter berth either side behind the companionway steps. These are very, very small, difficult to access. There's like a small door you have to duck down through aft of the galley to get in there, but really nice bunks. So from like a bunk perspective, this boat there's the V-berth. So you've got 2 bunks in the V-berth.
Oh, that's very nice.
Nice V-berth. You have 2 bunks in the V-berth, 2 pilot bunks, and then 2 quarter berths. So you have 6 like sea berths if you're doing like racing or ocean sailing, plus the 2 settees. So, and I like that. A lot of modern boats get rid of the pilot bunks in lieu of having like cupboard cabinetry storage, which makes it nicer to live aboard. But then, depending on what you're doing with it, it's a little bit different. So that's
are they full size? They look a bit small.
The pilot bunks.
Yeah,
they are. They narrow at the front where your feet are going to be, but they're. I mean, yes, you can easily sleep in them. Spica has pilot bunks that are not quite full size, and I can still sleep in there. So they are full size.
Cool.
So that's basically what when the ad came out, that's what I saw in the ad. Now, there's not much you can learn from these because obviously the ad photos, they're going to show the boat in the best possible light, like literally lighting, but like just like they're going to make it look the nicest. But actually, what I want to look for is what does it look like behind these locker doors? How are the winches mounted? What does it look like under the sink where the plumbing is? What do the through holes look like? What's the electrical system look like? So these photos don't tell me anything about that. So before I went to the boat, Mia and I did our little forensic digging. And one thing that was cool about this is, this picture, the boat looks gorgeous there. It's fully commissioned. It's at anchor. Another picture here, the boat's at anchor. Everything's set up. But you don't know when those pictures were taken. So what we did,
good point.
We downloaded these photos, opened them up in Photoshop, and looked at the metadata in the photo. And these photos, this ad was from like May of this year was when the boat was put up for sale. But these photos are from 2020. And that it told us that if you look at the metadata of the actual image. Now, if a broker's smart, they'll erase that metadata, but this one had it in there, and it was easy to see that actually you're not seeing the full picture because this is a 5-year-old, almost a 5-year-old picture.
Yeah, sometimes the weather just is really rough. That is, I think everybody just knows that.
That's a little worrying
because that means that was that when the boat was at its prettiest? Was 4 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, you're also. I'm going to reshare my screen in a second, but to come back to that, that also
glorious.
You don't know when the boat was last sailed, and as you know, a boat that is used is usually a boat that's maintained.
Well, I guess maybe actually
is not being maintained.
The weather wasn't that opposite.
So we did a little more digging, and it turned out that there were photos taken from in the shed back in summer of 2023. So we knew without talking to anybody that the boat had not sailed at all.
It was
in 2024.
Fantastic downwind.
So last time it sailed, last time we saw a picture of the boat in the water that had metadata in the image said the boat in the water 2023. So for some reason the boat hasn't sailed for over a year. So that's just like, okay, noted.
20
so now I'm going to do my screen share. There's photos from the broker's visit. So the broker went to the boat and took his own photos as like, okay, if anybody inquires, here's some more detailed
up spinnaker, and we saw a couple
interesting facts about this boat that I'll show you here with the
way
mast.
Out of control.
This boat,
really ugly
and
broaches,
part of the reason it's got a high asking price, they're asking $775, which is like $77,000. Meanwhile, there's 3 other Norene 37s. None of them are over
at the
500.
start, and then as the wind died
this
off
boat
a little
has
bit,
a bow
then
thruster that was
we
installed 2
hoisted
years
the
ago
spinnaker,
and
then
has
we,
a roller furling
we
mast
left that up
that
the
was
whole
installed
way back
20
and
years
just
ago.
stayed,
And this
stayed
owner has
right
owned the
on
boat for
rum line
25 years.
with
So that
the
can be a good
symmetrical
thing or a
spinnaker. We
bad
could
thing,
just
depending
go
on how
dead
the owner
downwind,
is.
which was exactly where we
But
needed
he
to
wrote
go.
a nice story about the boat. It seemed like he took
it was
good care
really
of it.
fast
Peter
and
Norene
really
himself
fun
was
and,
involved in redesigning the
beautiful
rig and the sail
sunny
plan
weather,
because it
and,
has
it's
inner
glorious
forestay
sail.
on a furler,
And,
a headstay on a
and we won
furler,
our
and a roller
class as
furling
well.
mast. It was designed
So,
as a double-handed, easy-to-handle boat. The mast is slightly taller than original because you lose some sail area in a roller furling mainsail, as opposed to the bigger roach on a batten mainsail.
Because then,
so like Peter Norene came in and said, "Okay, if you're going to do this, let's raise the mast height a little bit. Let's extend the boom a little bit. We'll get back some of that lost mainsail area. We'll do this for the Staysail. We'll do this for the Genoa." It's a pretty cool project to do. Although, like, one of the reasons the price was higher is it was valuing that roller furling main and the bow thruster, which is just not something that Mia and I. It's actually a negative for us because it's like.
Yeah. Oh, good.
No,
question.
it would not have. It was definitely a bug, not a feature. I would have not. It wouldn't have been a deal breaker had everything else been perfect.
Leaderboard
but
here.
I
Let me
would
see.
definitely not have chosen that.
were,
And again, it's a negative, and like I'm not going to pay extra for that because I actually think it's a downside because it's just more maintenance and something I actually like. I still enjoy
so
the physical act of
17
sailing. So I don't need a roller furling mainsail because
two
it just
Shetlands
doesn't.
upwind.
It actually reduces my enjoyment of sailing, if that makes sense.
200 miles.
So just a comment there. But now what these photos do is it gets us into the nitty gritty here because there's a lot more detail shots. So the boat had the decks completely stripped and repainted, I think 4 or 5 years ago. So the boat on deck, and that's when they did the cockpit with the cork. The boat on deck looks awesome in the photos. All the hatches are new and is awesome in person. This is the shed I saw the boat. So this is what the boat looked like the other day. I did not take these pictures, but this is what it looked like the other day when I was there. On deck, it's really nice. It's got new Rutgerson tracks down the side decks, a new Rutgerson main sheet. It's got Anderson primary winches in the cockpit. There's a nice shot of the tracks for the Genoas. Really, really, really nicely refit on deck.
Bang on.
However, what the broker couldn't answer and what worries me is in the description of the refit, these boats were built with a balsa core. Almost all boats were built with some kind of deck core. Balsa is a really lousy coring material because if it gets wet, it soaks it up like a sponge and it can spread in other areas of the deck far beyond wherever the leak originated. A much better coring material, which they use nowadays, is Divinycell. It's closed cell foam. If it leaks and gets wet, it's only going to be wet in that spot where the leak is. So there was no evidence, and they replaced the balsa in the cockpit with Divinycell before they put the cork down. So like, okay, great, huge plus. But there was no indication of them having done that on deck. No signs of a soft deck necessarily when I was there. I was knocking around looking for delamination and stuff like that. But that's like on a boat that's 50 years old.
Oh, wow.
That was a red flag. And what I want to show you here, I think... No, never had teak decks. It just was repainted. So that was a plus. Never had teak decks. So anyway, just a comment.
Like
if we move along here to some of the interior stuff, this is where I started getting like, ooh, this is weird. So this is the picture of his battery charger. Well, that battery charger is from freaking Beal-Tema, and it's just a bullshit small plug-in to charge your car starter battery. I mean, it's a Marine version of that, but this is not like a Victron dedicated proper battery charger. It's like, all right, this is a little weird. And look at the wires on the background. They're just kind of like they're just going off into oblivion. So then we get to...
Cool.
Yep. So now we can show some plumbing. I don't know what this is, but like again, forensically looking at it, because there's no information with this photo. It's just a photo.
I love the.
I see.
I love the
attitude.
attitude. I love the
destination race.
part of a foot pump.
So I assume this is under the sink in the galley, or maybe under the head sink.
An example,
like
in comparison, the Carib
sewage
600
plumbing,
you
this
start and
white
finish in
hose.
Antigua, and meanwhile
There's
you
a
sail
lot
past
of
all these beautiful
hoses.
islands
There's a
that you
lot
don't
of
get to stop
valves.
at.
Nothing's very
But
organized.
you actually get to
can
go
see
and
the very
see
long
something
tail
and then
on
race
these hose
back again.
clamps.
It's a really nice
It's double
concept.
hose clamps, so that's a good sign. But they're the wrong size. They're way too big, and there's a long tail in the hose clamp. I can't quite see. Some of these valves look nice and they're bronze and good, but I can't quite see the through hulls. I really wanted to know, like on a 50-year-old boat, had they replaced the through hulls at any point, and what material did they use? Unclear. A lot of wiring, a lot of like shitty looking connections, and I'm just like, okay. There's a lot of things I don't love here, because like I redid all the wiring on Spica, and I don't want to do that again. I was like, I actually like those kind of projects, but like I'm not interested in that. So. Exactly. Wow. That's right.
That's very cool.
So
I mean,
now here we have for another
makes you
big red flag
more confident
photo.
in the boat for
This
just normal
is
sailing, for
looking
sure.
at the wiring behind the electrical panel, and it looks like a bird's nest. The connections look okay. There's nice bus bars, and it's been updated at some point. It's definitely not original, but it's just none of it's labeled, and
Yeah,
some of it's
exactly.
labeled with some shitty white tape here. But the rest of it's not labeled, and none of it's zip tied. None of it, you don't know where any of it's going. It's just like. It's like one of those photos that makes me exhale, like, oh, like just makes me weak. So that was another red flag. I want to skip ahead here. So this one, 25 years, yeah. So it's all pretty simple in that sense. You're right, but yeah, that's I'm sure what happens. So here, this photo, we're looking now aft. We're seeing a athwartships mounted fuel tank that's new, and this was an additional fuel tank. I don't love the way it's just strapped down. It's clearly not like original. It was built. It was added. It looks. It's kind of strapped down, but it's. I don't know. It makes me uneasy looking at it. It was hard to see in the photo what this actually was until I got on board. But there's what you're seeing above that fuel tank, that silver part, and this is a big plus. When they redid the cockpit, they rebuilt the entire steering system. So the boat has a new Jeffa binnacle.
That's great.
Yeah,
Just
I was
drive
going
the
to
boat.
say about that.
So the way
Would
the
you,
Jeffa steering works is there's like a hard
I know you
linkage
don't like
between
either of
the
those
binnacle
things,
and
but
the quadrant.
was that
So as you
something
turn
that
the wheel,
that-
it runs this
did you
rod, and that turns
that a little
the
bit
quadrant.
differently
Almost
now
like
looking
an
for a family
autopilot
boat?
ram works, but connected to the wheel. And that was all like within 5 years old. So that all looked really nice. That was really cool to see. So there's another plus.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
these
yeah.
two hoses that you're seeing either side of that are the cockpit drains. They drain overboard, and they are, if you look closely, they are crossed.
Yep.
So you have the port side cockpit drain crosses to a starboard side outlet, and you do that because as the boat is heeled, if it was on the same side as the boat heels,
Well,
you could
Skipper,
actually
I need to
flood
run.
the
I'm on my
cockpit
way
because
to look
the
at.
heel
This is a
side
sneak
would be on the
preview
low
of maybe
side.
the next episode
Oh, yeah, no,
we
totally.
do.
Crisscross the
I'm on
hoses
my
for
way
the
to look
cockpit
at a
drains so
Norene
that
37
as the boat
and
heels,
an
the low side of the
OE
cockpit is on the high
36,
side
two
of discharge
classic
that's now actually kind of out
50-year-old
of the water, if that
Swedish
makes
built
sense.
boats. I can't help myself. This is not for
So
59
that's
North,
one
I
of the
should say.
signs,
This
okay,
is for
was
Mia
that
and I
installed right? It
personally.
looks like new hose.
So
Okay,
we'll
good.
see.
That's
We'll
like a
see
good
how this
sign.
goes.
So now, however, we go to the next picture. That's the battery installation. And I'll describe this. You've got 4 Exide batteries, not clear what type they are.
I mean, definitely.
Wires
Just
going
these two
everywhere.
boats alone. I mean, the
None of
Norene 37
terminals
is
are
a big
protected.
version of
Like,
Spica, which
there
is
was
a
lid
Norene
on top of this
34.
box,
I mean, it
but,
almost
like,
looks the
there's
same. It's just a
no
little bit longer.
sort of
And then this
insulation on
OE
any of the
36 is
terminals. The
OE
engine
stands for
exhaust
Ola
hose is
Enderlein, who was a
laying right
pretty
across the
famous
Nice.
Swedish yacht
installation.
designer. Designed a lot of the early Halber Grassy
The battery
boats,
box itself,
but
the batteries
prior to
are strapped
that,
down,
designed
the
some
box
really
is fully
sleek
built.
sort of
Nothing
cruiser
was
racers, and this
sort of
particular one
refinished. It just that
very
was like a
much looks
huge
like a
red flag.
mini
Oh, man,
Eastbjorn. It
like,
almost looks like a
like,
Swedish Swan 36.
externally, the boat looks awesome.
And
Flip it through a little
I'm
more,
excited
we've
to
got
see
a,
it because they have a kind of like a cult following here in Sweden. So, you know me, I gotta have something unique. So
like ratchet straps.
we're gonna have a look see.
No, we might go look at an Arcona 355 later this week. That's in Stockholm. That's also a Swedish built boat. And then there's another Norene designed boat called an Alban Stratus that there's a handful of in Stockholm. We may go look at as well. Those are a little bit newer, still 80s or 90s. So yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about in our next boat shopping episode. And it's, my head was spinning, like I said at the beginning. I can't sleep. It's all very exciting.
Sorry, did you say she had decks, but they removed them?
You're no longer shopping. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. It is. Vicariously. Cool. All right, Skipper. Thanks for today. All right. See you next time.
Yeah, that's a cheap and quick. I actually had that exact same charger on Eastbjorn as like before we put proper 220 volts shore power in. It was just like yeah, and yeah, no, it's not great. Yeah. Yeah. Very often you can tell more from what the pictures are not showing you than from what they are showing you. If a listing doesn't have a picture of the engine, say, or the sea or the through hulls or whatever, that's probably because the owner didn't particularly like how that looked. So that's yeah. Yeah. This was the boat that had the same owner for 20 years, right? 25 years. Yeah. That's the thing. Like they probably didn't thought that, I know where all this goes and I'll figure this out. But then once, hmm. Oh, yeah. Huh. Hmm. Never thought about that. That's really clever. Cool. Rubber mats or anything. Yeah. Mm. I'll just comment on these straps again. What do you call those in English? Those self-locking straps, ratchet straps, with these like little shitty aluminum buckles that's clearly corroded. And yeah, whoever did this just wanted to get it done really quickly and didn't worry about how long it was going to last.
That's
obviously.
right. I mean, that's another Bieltema item. I mean, I think this entire battery box is all bought from Bieltema. Nothing wrong with Bieltema. We buy a lot of stuff from there, but some things you should not buy at Bieltema.
That's not marine grade.
No.
That's for sure.
So here we're looking at the, it's got a dripless shaft seal that looks like a nice installation, so that's another plus. And it appears, and this is a story I didn't hear, but like if you look closely, the dripless shaft seal is attached to the stern tube, which looks new or newish, looks newer than the boat. So I wonder at some point if they replace the stern tube, which would be a good thing if it was done properly. And then I'm going to whiz through these because the rest of these, those are the ones here's another image of like, there's the start battery right next to the fuel tank, no terminals protected. The fuel filters right next to the battery that's very inaccessible under a bunk in the back. There's a suspicious looking through hull there that's got a nice valve on it, but I don't think the through hull's been changed. It looks original. So like at this point, I kind of knew that like, all right, I'm going to go look at this boat because I've never been on a Norene 37. I want to see what it feels like. How big is it actually? What's the layout feel like? But like, I'm not buying this boat, and certainly not buying this boat at $75,000. Like no fucking way in hell. So that's kind of where we're at here, and I'm just going to skip through the rest of these, and people can look at these themselves later.
Is there a way you can share these on the quarterdeck?
I should be able to, yeah, until the broker catches wind of this podcast and takes it down.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll share all these on here, and but my point with this is like, I wanted to talk about how I'm looking at photos. Here's actually a good one we can talk about. That's the keel bolts, and the bilge. This all looked really good, actually. The mast step, keel bolts, everything looked clean and nice, especially for a 50-year-old boat. So that was a plus. But like the floorboards were really tired. It just like everything, you know, the difference between when you stood in the parking lot and looked at the boat in the shed and it has a shiny new paint job on the hull sides, the bottom, and the deck, looks just beautiful. And then you go inside the boat and it's just like, oh, okay. So on the outside, here's a boat that was renovated in the last 5 to 10 years. Beautifully done, really done. But they, as Mia said, they renovated this boat from the outside in, and we are looking for a boat that was renovated from the inside out.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So this is like, yeah, they flipped the house, they made everything look nice, but actually the guts are still suspect.
Still the same.
And one more photo I need to pop out of our share screen here for a second, but one more photo I got to show you too, which was a huge red flag. I don't want to waste audio here, but there was one photo of the bottom of the keel, and there's a huge chunk out of the lead in the bottom of the keel that was unexplained, and like, why didn't they fix it, fair it, and repaint it before they put the boat up for sale? It's just like, yeah, fuck it, put it in the shed, let the next owner deal with it. And I talked to the broker, and he's like, yeah, the guy, he ran aground really, really slowly, and it's just lead, and it's fine. It's like, okay, I'm sure that every single old boat in Sweden has hit a rock at some point. Like it's just the way the sailing is over here. I'm sure that's the case, but that they didn't fix it was just like, come on, like you're selling the boat. You could have at least made it look nice.
Yeah, that is true. They figured they probably wouldn't get their money back doing that, which they probably wouldn't. It would cost more to fix it than they would get it back. But yeah, still, it's not a good sign at all. It's
So my takeaways from the 37, awesome boat. I actually think it was probably Probably two things. Still like one of my dream boats. Like if I ever want to go cruising, like long distance, that's a boat I would look for. And if I had those plans, I might actually buy a boat in this condition and just refit it the way I want it to be. So that's one takeaway. It was big. I had full standing headroom, the length of the coach roof, which I don't have on the 34. And I'm 183 centimeters, like 6'1". So that was cool. But I learned from Spica and like from seeing this that these Norlenes, I think the hull and deck and everything I think they're strong boats, the keel and everything, but the quality of the fit and finish on the interior is production boat. You know, it's like the 1975 equivalent of a modern Beneteau. Nothing wrong with it, but just nothing really stands out. It's a lot of molded plastic, thin plywood veneer on everything, and just not, like compare that to Eastbjorn or Arcturus, which are like solid teak, really classy, nicely built interiors, and it's just not that same level of quality. So I think like no matter how well you refit a Norene 37, it's still a Norene 37 unless you gut it and rebuild it completely. And that was kind of like, oh, okay, interesting. Just note, like I kind of thought that Spica's interior was just like was unique because Spica's old and was built as a one-off race boat, but actually it's almost identical to the Norene 37. So it was just the level that they built at that time wasn't up to sort of Eastbjorn, what I'm sort of used to. Even though Eastbjorn's old and weathered, it's still really nicely done.
Everything is built so solidly and so thick that it's.
And I think what happens with a boat like Eastbjorn that's built like that, it can be weathered, and what happens is instead of it looking tired and worn, it just gets a nice patina. It's like like an antique almost. Whereas a boat like this Norene 37, it just looked tired inside. It just looked tired. And it's not gonna. It didn't wear the same way because similar age as Eastbjorn, early mid 70s. Yeah. So that was my takeaway, and I left there. Actually, the boat was exactly what I expected from going through these photos. Mia and I went through these photos many times and really tried to dig deep into them. And when I got there, it was like exactly what I expected. So I was a little disappointed in one way, but also like happy that I didn't immediately like, oh my God, we have to buy this boat because it's my dream boat.
Yeah. Good on you for taking it easy and analyzing everything so well that you did.
Yeah. I need to take just a quick break. Let's just we can keep rolling. I just need to check. I have a couple text messages that came in here, and Adam's on Falcon in Plymouth. They just pulled the mast out yesterday, so I just need to check in really quick.
Oh yeah, that's right. And he's pulling the rig today.
You can make this edit sound like it was seamless. The other boat, which I actually looked at first in the chronology of this, but was not even on my radar at all before I started this boat search, was this OE 36, Ola Enderlein 36, built in 1971. Didn't know anything about it. I saw again, I was laying on the couch on Saturday night last weekend. Mia was at a friend's with Axel overnight, so I was home alone, and I'm doing my thing, doing my boat search. I go to the home chosen for you on Blocket, and I see this OE 36, and it's listed at $415. And the photo of it's a drone photo of a classic. It looks like a mini Eastbjorn. It looks like a Swan 36. So the early Swan 36 had a coach roof, a traditional coach roof. This looks like that is the best way to describe it. Like just timeless, classic, elegant, classic yacht. Photo from the drone. I was like, oh, this is promising. So I look at the listing and I was like, oh man, like this sounds like I'm going to pull up the listing and I'll try to translate it because it's in Swedish, but it's one of those that caught my eye because it was like, okay, this isn't really a boat that's on my radar. I had a classic boat in Arcturus before. I'm not, Spica's a little more modern looking. And I was like, I don't think I want to own another classic boat. Here's what the ad looked like. That's the image in the ad.
Oh yeah. Gorgeous.
I mean, it's a timeless classic, but I was like, I think I'm kind of over that. But I start reading the listing, and here it goes. It says, OE 36 number 4 is one of the first 6 entirely boatyard built 36s, built in 1971. After the first 6, a lot of them were home built. The interiors are home built. You can really tell on the interior. I'm translating this as I read. You can really tell that on the interior, and there's a especially high standard compared to some of the other later home-built OE36s. There was in 2004, 2005, there was a complete renovation done at Lidköping's boat carpentry. They laid a new teak deck. The interior was upgraded. There was a new electrical system installed, bigger water tanks installed, new winches mounted. The mast was painted. New cushions were sewed with, and more and more and more. And under the 10 years, under the years 2014 to 2024, there was a lot more upgrades, including a new stainless septic tank with deck draining, a warm water heater, an installed hot water shower in the cockpit, integrated free refrigerator, a new custom-built electrical panel, new electronics, including AIS, new lithium batteries, a 9-inch Garmin plotter, which happens to be the same one we installed on Eastbjorn recently. A new before the season in 2024, a new sail cover and a new Dodger. And I'm reading this and I was like, oh my goodness, like this might be it. This is the boat that we talk about, the deal that's like, what's happening here? This is a completely renovated boat. And I'm going down the list, and it talks more about the sails and the rig and everything, the engine, and then the included material that goes in this. I mean, this listing goes on and on and on. And it says she's available in Näckekvarn on the East Coast. There's more photos plus another listing that I can send to those that are seriously interested. And I texted him, so this is kind of an advantage, I guess, that I have as a boat shopper. Is I send him a message and I'm like, hey, love your boat. My wife and I are serious sailors. We run a sailing business. Check it out here, but we're very serious sailors and knowledgeable boat owners. And then this guy texted me back. He's like, Andy and Mia, I know you guys. I followed you for 10 years. I was like, no way. Cool. I was like, I love your boat. Can I come and see it? He's like, sure. And he wasn't even there. He's like, I'll arrange for somebody to give you the keys and you can just go on board and just do your thing. So cool. In the meantime, he'd sent me more photos, and we can go through these photos now. I'll show you my screen share.
Please.
Have you looked at these on your own, by the way, August?
I did look a little bit. I couldn't help myself.
So now let's go through this, and let's look at, with keeping in mind what we just saw from the Norene and the way I was sort of forensically analyzing those photos, keep that in mind. So right off the bat, that's the brand new septic tank, so holding tank, stainless steel, custom made so it follows the contours of the hull and is as big as possible. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd like to see that. That's cool. That's sexy.
That's not going to clog up anytime soon.
Here, I can just actually flip through a slideshow. No, it's going to be better if I scroll. Hang on. So there's your forepeak, and like immediately the first image of the interior of the boat, it's like, wow, like that doesn't look like a 50-year-old boat. Like what's going on here? Like this is something. And
this
again,
very nice.
I didn't know when these photos were taken, so kind of with a grain of salt. Found out later that they were taken in 2017, which is like 7 years ago now, and I'm like, oh shit, like maybe this is gonna be shitty when I get there. So now we.
But then again, then you can go and have a look, and you can see, oh, okay, it still holds up. That means that job was really well done.
So now we're looking. Now we're in the salon, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is like a proper yacht. Like, look at that trawler lamp. That's an oil trawler lamp hanging over the table. You've got this satin varnish on everything, like proper buttons in the cushions, like you just did on Eastbjorn. Like this is a freaking yacht. Like, look at this thing. And I'm like I'm starting to drool now looking at these pictures. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I didn't think I wanted a classic boat, but okay, look at the quarter berth. Wow. Like, everything is like looking really, really, really promising here. And all the lights, so this is a reading light in the quarter berth, or in the forepeak. All the lights on the whole boat were switched out to LED. All the fixtures are new, and it's like, oh man, okay, this could be something here. There's the triangle removed from the forepeak. Now we come down, oh, it comes with a new dinghy. Oh, that's interesting. I was going to buy a dinghy for Spica anyway, because Axel loves going on dinghy rides, and we don't have a dinghy. So there's a plus. Now there's that beautiful oil lamp all lit up with a flame. There's another oil lamp looking thing on the wall, but I believe it was converted. It might actually still be oil lamp. I'm not sure.
That is great. Stainless steel Oil lamp. That's really nice.
And now here's like some detail shots that show the stainless steel surrounds on the windows inside the boat. It shows a nice view of the headliner. Headliner is always a problem on old boats because they usually use this like especially boats from the 70s and 80s, they use this like textured sort of white, off-white, speckled, horrible looking vinyl for like hull liner and headliner, and it looks horrendous. Even if it's clean, like it never looks good. And this was completely redone with like shiny white vinyl. All the little buttons covering the screws are still in place, like really, really nicely. It looks really nice in the pictures, and there's some detail photos of what that looks like here. But again,
and it's
like,
very like you can tell the that's a very brave shot to take. Like, is that if you go up to the former shot there, it's a very angled shot that follows the contours of the of the headliner and of the wood there. If there was any kind of wrinkles or bubbles or any crap in there, those would have been very exposed in an angle
exactly
like that. So it's kind of the opposite of what these the photos that brokers usually take, which is a wide angle, stand as far away as possible.
Yep.
Just make everything look as flat as you possibly can.
The other side of that, though, is it worried me because you're right. Everything you said is dead on accurate. But at the same time, you kind of know that, like, well, nothing ever looks as nice as it does in the photos. Like it kind of it set me up for disappointment, actually, because I'm like, these photos, and they're clearly taken with like a nice lens with someone who knows how to take like a good photo. And as a filmmaker or as a filmmaker yourself, you know that you can do a lot with the camera to manipulate how people view an image. So I'm kind of like, knowing that, I'm like, well, it lowered my expectations because I was like, there's no fucking way it's gonna look as nice as this photos make it look. So we go down here. There's another detail shot of that vinyl headliner. Another detail shot of the bulkhead mounted oil lamp there. Now we've got a nice shot of the bookshelf behind the starboard settee. There's like a nice cutout with lighting inside the shelf that shows the books there. And then on either side of it, there's two teak doors that open up onto other lockers. You can see the knee inside the bookshelf where the chain plate's mounted to. You can see there's a locker on the left here, which is forward of the settee in this photo. Here's a detailed shot of a cleat on deck, stainless steel cleat. The teak decks, there's no way to justify that. I hate teak decks. I wish it didn't have a teak deck, but it is what it is.
Are they screwed?
Yes,
down,
they're screwed down.
Oh crap! I thought I saw some bungs
yes,
there.
they're bunged. This is the biggest downside of this boat, but it's relatively new, and the teak over here and boats in general, like, you have a sailing season of 4 months, and most people keep their boats inside for the winter, and if not inside, definitely under a winter cover. So the age of something that's 20 years old here compared to 20 years old in the Chesapeake, that's a very different aging cycle in a lot of ways. This is also me trying to justify this to myself.
I could hear that.
but it's true to an extent. More detailed shots here in the galley. There's another drone shot of the masthead. I mean, you can see from above, this boat has the almost identical lines to Eastbjorn, like very graceful, not an overly pinched stern, but a very proportional beam to length ratio, as opposed to some of these newer boats that have a big ass or like Spica even it's very, very beamy. This boat is 36 feet long to Spica's 34, but actually is a narrower beam. So the silhouette from above, like, you could superimpose Eastbjorn over this, and I think it would look almost identical.
Yeah.
And this has a similar hull shape to Eastbjorn as well, of sort of that fin keel with the skeg-mounted rudder back aft. Single spreader rig. The rig is a little bit short on this. Here's a good picture, a drone shot of the boat under sail. It's got, back in the day, boats tended to have a lower aspect ratio sail plan, so a longer boom and a shorter mast. And when I ran the numbers on it, the sail area to displacement number, which is the best indication of light air performance, is a lot lower than I'd like. It's like 14. I think Eastbjorn is closer to 16. Spike is out around 17. Falcon's at like 22, which is really high. Arcturus was 15. So you start to get under 15, and it's like a little bit worrying, because I also really want a boat that's fun to sail. But
yeah.
It turns out friends of ours have owned, I forgot about this, friends of ours that we met 15 years ago. They've owned an OE36 for almost over 30 years. They have hull number 1. They live in Sweden, and they sailed it across the Atlantic and back, and they love the boat. And I talked to them about it because I think you'll know what I mean, August. Like, to me, the overall speed of the boat, like what the knot meter says, is less important than how she feels under sail. So
Absolutely.
I need to have a sweet sailing boat. Arcturus was a sweet sailing boat. Spica, similar size, Norene 34, would sail circles around Arcturus. But Arcturus still sails really sweet. I believe Spica would sail circles around this. But I asked my friends, I was like, is it a sweet sailing boat, if you know what I mean? Eastbjorn is the sweetest sailing boat of all. But she's also fast because she's bigger. And they assured me that it was. But to that end, I'm actually doing something I've also never done before I bought a boat. I'm going for a test sail on Monday. So I'm going to get to see for myself. Mia and I are going down on Monday. And we're going to go out sailing with the owner because I want to prove to myself my assumption that this will be a sweet sailing boat. Ola Enderlein was known for saying that a boat with sweet lines will sail sweetly, and I think that's true. It's kind of like if it looks right, it is right.
Yeah.
So, but
is she? Does she have sail number 4?
It appears that way. It does. It's
that is fantastic. If that's the case, that is awesome.
Hull number 4, and it says Sweden 4 on the sails, which is the sail number, which is very cool.
That is very, very
now,
cool.
I've also asked my sailmaker who made the sails for Falcon and Spica. I've asked him what he thinks about the boat, if he thinks it's underpowered. And his response was, it is a very good sailboat, but it is slightly underpowered in light air. So he's trying to talk me into, if we do buy this boat, supercharging it, putting a taller mast on, and changing the sail plan a little bit, which, you know me, I will be talked into, but that's like for another discussion.
Yeah, that is true.
But as long as
it's kind of
as long as it's a sweet sailing boat, that's what's most important to me.
That's right. I guess there is some benefit to having a short boom when family cruising with a energetic kid is involved. It might be safer and a little easier to
but justify that away. Anyway, let's keep looking at these pictures because now we're getting down to details. This was the one that really blew me away. This is a detailed photo of the electrical panel. I have never seen a more beautiful electrical panel in my life. And it's got engraved in the corner OE36 number 4 with the boat name on it, the call sign engraved, the MMSI number engraved. It's got all the tank gauges right there. And the coolest part about this is they kept it retro. So instead of having a breaker panel, like a modern Blue Seas breaker panel like you have on Eastbjorn, they used fucking silver stainless toggle switches. It looks like a freaking James Bond Aston Martin dashboard or something with fuses instead of breakers. And I don't care if it's less practical. It looks so freaking sexy. It is so cool.
Yeah, that's going to feel really good, when you get up and you're just getting ready to up anchor and you go to the nav station and you flick on all the switches and you're thinking to yourself, all right, here we go. And that's going to feel really good.
It's so cool. And then, so even there's some more details here of the electrical panel. I'm trying to find another picture, but I don't think it's in the photo. But when I was on board, down in the corner, they even have switches to, in that same style, to remotely turn on and off the inverter and to remotely turn on and off the freaking, stealth mode on AIS, which normally you do through a phone app. They have a toggle switch for it. I was like, this is fucking awesome.
That's cool. Great for smuggling.
So going down the list here, I mean, I'm going to scroll through some more photos here, but in the photos, everything is just so. They've got here's photos of the instruments in the cockpit. They've got a plaque at the companionway that reads OE36 number 4, designer Ola Enderlein, manufactured Sweden, 1971. They've got a Garmin heel angle indicator right there. They've got a USB outlet in the cockpit. I mean, look at the freaking ass on that, August. It's basically it's a mini Eastbjorn. I mean, that hull shape is Eastbjorn's hull shape. It's almost identical.
Very sexy. Same like kind of wine glass lifted stern. Looks great.
Look at this photo. Here's a nice photo of the winches in the cockpit. There's an Anderson stainless primary winch and a Lumar self-tailing, both self-tailing winches mounted outside the cockpit combing on these big stainless steel sort of risers.
Wow.
Just like, and those winches, they'd fit on Eastbjorn. They're huge. And best thing of all about this boat, cool. The best thing of all, because like usually classic boats have a lot of wood. This does have a lot of wood. It's got teak decks. I already said that. But notice the tow rail. The tow rails on these boats were built with a teak cap rail, and when they renovated the boat, they ripped that fucking teak cap rail off and they put a proper aluminum tow rail on it. And I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, I can't believe it. Nobody does that. That is amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So and
it looks nice too.
It looks fantastic. And notice it because it has tiny little bulwarks. Because it had a teak cap rail, the molded hull came up about an inch, and the teak cap rail sat on top of that. So the aluminum tow rail sits on the bulwarks. So you've got drains in the bulwarks for the water to run off the decks to not go under the tow rail like on Eastbjorn. Like, it's a really clever way to do it.
Yeah. And so the tow rail is not structural or anything. Then it's just kind of sat on top.
I believe that's the case. Correct. Because the hull to deck joint is a different style because it had the teak cap rail.
Yeah, that's great.
Scrolling through here, there's another one of those nice detail shots of the deck, like what you want to look at on a teak deck. Yes, it has screws. You can see the bungs. That's a big no-no. But this boat has Divinycell core. We talked about coring earlier. That was a big question I had because I was like, fuck, if this has teak decks and a balsa core, like that might be a deal breaker no matter how nice the boat is. But he's like, nope, it's foam. And I was like, how do you know? He's like, I have a deck plug. I'll show you. So he had a cutout, like a 2-inch cutout where they put the fill in or the pump out for the holding tank. And the deck plug is it's got to be it's got to be 5 centimeters thick. And it shows about 12 mil of teak, then about 4 mil of fiberglass, then another 10 mil of foam, Divinycell foam, and then another 4 mil of fiberglass. And I was like, okay, fine, it's foam. Good, thank you. So that's a huge plus. None of the caulk is pulling out on the teak here. And when you look at a teak deck, what you want to know if it was maintained properly is when you walk on it, when you rub your hand on it, there should be no distinction between the teak and the rubber seal, the rubber caulk. It should be smooth and level. Because what happens is the teak wood wears faster than the rubber does. So every once in a while, you have to take a razor blade and scrape down the caulk when the caulk gets proud. Because if the caulk gets proud and water sits in between the seams of caulk and isn't allowed to run off, the water will eat away at the grain of the wood and further wear the wood even faster than the caulk. So when you step on a teak deck barefoot, you'll know immediately, did someone take care of this or not? Because if you feel the caulk proud under your feet, that's like a red flag. If you feel it smooth and even, that's a sign of either a new teak deck or a well-maintained teak deck.
Yeah. Not only that, but as the caulk sticks out further and further from the teak, just mechanical wear and tear is going to rip it out, and then you'll suddenly have a hole in your caulk, and now water's going to get down in and underneath and through the wood.
Correct. A couple other forensic things to look at in this particular image. I'm looking at how the stanchion bases are mounted. They do not go through the teak deck. They are mounted up on the cap rail and integrated with the tow rail. So that's like a good thing because they actually don't go through the deck. So it's one less thing to leak. We've got a new, clearly not an original Genoa track here, just in the foreground of this photo. So somebody replaced that at some point, probably during this refit. So that's like a good sign.
And you got to give it to teak decks, Andy.
They do look awesome.
They look beautiful.
They do look beautiful.
It is
I know.
Gorgeous.
It is pretty.
The way it really, you talked about the lines and stuff. That teak decks really enhances those features, and
it does.
I think it looks beautiful.
It does. Now we're going back into the head. So just look at detail photo here. Look at that tap at the head sink. That's like a solid stainless steel sink tap. Also, there's already a stainless trash can mounted on the wall. Look at the plumbing. Look at the fixture you can see behind the toilet that shows the Y valve for the holding tank. It's right there. It's double hose clamped. It's plastic, which is a good thing. It's not like aluminum that's going to rust or corrode. Everything is as it should be in here. I'm going down to another. Here's that electrical panel in all its glory. You see the full nav station. You've got a nice ICOM VHF, 2 bilge pump switches, a couple USB outlets, the solar charge controller. There's my toggle switches for AIS silent and inverter on off, all the tank gauges, and then this freaking James Bond electrical panel, which is just the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It does look really nice.
And then there you see a photo of the boat at anchor, and it's just an objectively beautiful boat. It's just like you can't deny it. I said I was kind of over the sort of classic yacht thing. I like that. I've come to appreciate a more modern looking boat because I know how it sails better as well. But like you can't deny this is a pretty boat. And that's probably my biggest. That's probably my biggest hurdle. Actually, is I look at this boat and it just doesn't look as cool as Spica looks, and that's what I have the hardest thing with. Definitely still has cool factor, but it's not quite on the same level. Scrolling down, more photos. Here's the lithium battery installation. There's the stove. So the galley has like a countertop over the stove that slides down into a recess when you're using the stove, but when you're not, creates more counter space. You got the fridge there. You got foot pumps in the galley.
It's I can't believe the fridge the lid is that clean. It's just nuts.
Well, so here
can't ever have been used.
This is like what you love to see. I'm going to make these photos big. Here is where the cabinetry in the head has been removed when they were installing this holding tank. Look at the difference in the plumbing in this image versus the plumbing we saw on the Norene 37.
Yeah.
I mean, this, like, you love to see this, and you never see this. You never see this. Look at the bilges. The hull sides and the bilges are freshly painted. We didn't see that in the Norene 37. Everything is spotless. Everything's labeled. Look, the valve, out, quarter full, half full. It's everything is labeled. That you've got proper sanitation hose on this. It's all brand new. You can see the through hulls. They're all bronze through hulls. They were replaced during the refit. It's just like, love to see stuff. Look at this. First of all, check out that wheel, August.
Yeah, that is nice.
Can you please describe what we're seeing in this picture, August?
It is, we're sort of a point of view from the helmsman, so we're seeing down at the pedestal where we have a beautiful compass and a wheel that appears to be an inner hub of stainless steel, and then it's spoked varnished wood going out to an exterior ring out of solid varnished wood, and it looks very, very beautiful.
And in front of that wheel is the same Garmin plotter that we just installed on Eastbjorn. And you know me, I am not a fan of chart plotters, particularly at the helm. However, I'm going to justify myself here again. Two things that are good about this. A, sailing in the Stockholm Archipelago, I have my phone. I'm staring at my phone on the chart because you have to have a chart plotter of some sort to navigate around all the rocks and islands. Like, it's impossible not to. This is not an offshore boat. But what they did, what's hard to tell in this picture because of the perspective is this chart plotter is low and sort of forward. So when you're standing at the helm, it's not right in front of your face. It's down at the level of the compass. So it's there where you need it, but it doesn't distract from the sailing experience at the helm. That's my biggest problem with like modern chart plotters. They look like a TV in front of the helm and just takes you right out of the sailing experience. But this I actually think of as a genuine advantage for the way we're going to sail this boat in the archipelago, where it just makes it easier to not run into shit.
I think it's an absolute for the way like shorthanded coastal Swedish archipelago stuff. Yeah, you need a plotter like this. I think it's really great. Also, you said it was a 9-inch. Is that right?
9-inch, yeah.
Right. We had the 12-inch on.
Okay, so a little bit smaller. But you put yours at the nav station.
Yeah. We actually ordered the 9-inch, but they delivered a 12-inch.
That's right.
And I said, okay.
Thank you, Garmin.
That's great.
So next shot here, this shows the cockpit. It is an awesome cockpit. The cockpit itself there's a Dodger forward with the instruments under the companionway. Cool thing about this, actually going back to like the roller furling mast on the Norene, this boat is truly old school where everything is at the mast still. So halyards and reefing lines are at the mast. Nothing comes back into the cockpit. So I actually like that on a boat like this because it's more fun to sail going forward. And also it keeps Spica has about, I think, like 10 lines coming back into the cockpit, and it is a rat's nest of ropes. It gives you all the controls you want at hand, so it's easy to sail. But when you're sitting around at anchor, it's just everything's in the way. So the way we're using this boat as a cruising boat, I actually look at this as an advantage. It's a downside from a sailing controls perspective, but the cockpit's super clean. And then aft of the coaming, you've got this really big aft transom deck. And you can also see here, August, if you look closely, the rudder head behind the coaming. So this boat,
is that for a tiller attachment?
Exactly, yeah. So you're set up. You can, if you have a steering issue, you can just put a tiller on the boat, and it comes with a tiller. So instead of having an emergency tiller that's like a jury rig, you just put the tiller back on, and now you have a proper tiller steered boat in an emergency.
That is such a cool feature. I love that. My brother-in-law Matthias, who came sailing with us on Falken and Isbjørn here, he recently bought a Finn Sailor 38, and I helped him a lot in that process. That had that similar rudder stock attachment thing, and it was fantastic, really cool. I hadn't sailed with that before, but it's really great.
So what you can also see in this picture, you've got 2 lazarettes on either side of that tiller head on the aft deck, which are big. Someone can sit back, like that area is big enough for 2 people to sit back there outside the cockpit, but on a nice flat deck. And then you've got 2 more lazarettes at the helm seat, like right behind the helm. So there's and we have no cockpit locker storage on Spica at all. Everything under the cockpit is just one giant bunk down below in the cabin. And then if I back up a little bit here, in this photo on the port side, there's a cockpit locker, which you would think would be small because like it's the small boat. But you open that cockpit locker up and it is cavernous. It's huge. And inside that cockpit locker on the forward bulkhead, you've got the water heater, you've got the engine strainer and the rake core for the engine, all perfectly mounted on this beautifully painted bulkhead, labeled and immediately accessible right there, which was just super cool. I have a photo of that on my phone, but not on here. Nice photo of the.
That's what you get when you don't have the huge aft cabin in these boats. Is you get just tons of storage space available from the deck.
Exactly.
Great.
So here you've got a nice photo of the salon. There's a little like countertop above, like that divides the galley from the salon. That's kind of like a nice little serving bar kind of thing. Almost.
Look at that. I've been considering that for Isbjørn actually.
It's really
just
cool.
To put out
really
cups
cool.
and food and stuff.
It's really cool.
Great.
And this table opens up, so it's hard to see here. I have a video of it on my phone that I'll post on the quarterdeck. Some photos I took myself when I was there. But basically there's wooden, so this table folds in half, and when it's folded in half like this, it's fiddled. So like this is at sea mode, but when you kick out these supports, which by the way have bronze hinges and bronze hardware on them, you kick these supports out, open up the table, and the table on this boat's as big as the table on Falcon when it's in open mode, and in open mode it's flat because there's no fiddle. So you're like in port mode, table's open, at sea mode you've got the fiddles and the table folds up. There's this table also folds down on this mast that it sits on and creates a double bunk here in the salon.
That looks like a great family cruising feature.
And so I don't have a picture of this here, but this support that this table is sitting on, I call it a mast because it's like a 6-inch round aluminum pipework. In the bilge, there is basically this huge fiberglass knee that creates a mast step, for lack of a better word, for that table. That is like the nicest, sturdiest thing I've ever seen. Like it's like really, really nice. I'm about to get hyperbolic here because we're getting to the end of these photos, and I want to tell you about my experience being on the boat. So look at this. This is the engine room. All 4 of the walls surrounding this engine come apart completely. Look at how thick that insulation is. There's not a single tear in any of this insulation. It looks like it's done yesterday. This engine
is underneath the steps,
underneath the companionway steps, the companionway steps. This is a Perkins engine from 1998. August, it looks like it's brand new. When I was there, it looks like it's brand new. It's from 1998. It has 1,500 hours, which is very low hours for a 30-year-old engine. I mean, Falcon has 1,500 hours in 2 years on her engine. So and Perkins are notorious for being very reliable marine engines. So like this, despite its age, is a huge plus. And when I saw the condition, I was like, oh yeah, this is. It was kind of a question mark with the age. And I asked the owner, I was like, can I start it up? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I have a video. I'll post this on the quarterdeck of me starting the engine. Dude, it started on the first turn. Like it was like brum brum straight up. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Did you do the trick of feeling the engine before you started it to test if the owner had pre-run it before you arrived?
Oh, yeah. Well, he hadn't been there for a while, so it was definitely not pre-run.
Cool.
And
Nice.
here's a
And
nice... Go ahead.
I would say like almost those hours are almost a little too little. Like you would worry a little bit if the engine had been like sitting, because engines do like to turn a little bit.
To be run, yeah. So this is a photo looking aft from the mast. So from the forward part of the salon looking aft, you can see the companionway, the galleys on the right in this image, port side of the boat. Nav station is to starboard behind that bulkhead, and then you got the quarter berth. So the nav station, actually a cool feature about this compared to the Norene. The Norene's nav station was, when you sat at the nav station, you were facing the side of the boat, so it was like you were on port. So you were sort of like, it was a nice nav station, but when you were at it, you were sort of alone at the nav station. Whereas this, you sit on the front of the quarter berth is the nav station seat, and the nav station faces forward. So when you're sitting there, you're A, facing forward, and B, you're also part of whoever else is sitting in the salon. Kind of like on Eastbjorn.
Yeah.
But this gives you a good idea of like just the overall look and feel of the boat and how nice everything looks. I mean, you can see here there's no wrinkles in the headliner or everything like that. Look at this. August, please describe what you see in this picture.
We have now opened up that beautiful electrical panel that we discussed earlier, and out comes not a bird's nest, but a very neatly organized pile of wires. Everything seems to be labeled. All the connections seems to have been done properly. What is that we're seeing back there in the picture on the wall there? Well, there's buses, obviously.
The silver thing, I believe, is I'm not actually sure what that is. It's some device that's wired in
charger
back there.
Thing.
But
something. It looks great. I mean, you'll be able to trace every one of these lines and figure this out in just a couple of minutes.
This is another one of those
like
the photo of the septic tank installation. This is like love to see it, never see it. You never ever see an electrical panel that looks like this. And it's there, it's in all its glory. And I was like, saw this and I was like, I actually texted Mia. There's a beautiful shot of the front of the nav station. So you can see here, you sit on the quarter berth, you're at the nav desk, you're part of the salon. By the way, I'll put a picture on the quarterdeck. That locker at the forward end of the settee. Talk about your proper yacht. Guess what's in that locker?
Booze.
Exactly. That's your booze locker. And it's got 3 crystal whiskey glasses with like built-in storage for those glasses and like proper whiskey storage in there. That's your whiskey locker. So all right. So I'm going to try to, there's a great photo. August, what does that remind you of?
Eastbjorn.
Yeah, that's the boat out of the water. That's the hull shape of Eastbjorn. You got the shark fin keel, the skeg-mounted rudder, and just beautiful, beautiful hull shape.
Yeah, looks very comfortable. She has the same kind of 4-foot, very sharp bow, and she looks great.
So these are the photos that I was like drooling over for a while. And I texted Mia, I'm going to stop my screen share here and we can just chat now about my experience on the boat. I texted Mia when I first saw this listing and I was like, Mia, I think I found it. Like, I think I found like what we always talk about. The boat that has, for whatever reason, been undervalued, and someone else has done all the work. And like, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into this with skepticism. I'm going to not believe that the photos are going to be what they were. I'm going to think that, okay, these photos were taken in 2017. So August, I get to the boat and like I was tempering my enthusiasm and I get on the board and I'm poking around, I'm looking in the lockers and I go down below and I'm like, look and feel. It's like, okay, I can stand up in here. I couldn't do that in Spike. I can stand up in the galley and I'm just getting an overall feel. It's like, wow, this is really cozy. This is like also just surface level. Definitely as nice as the photos. Like the photos definitely did it justice. And the boat was in the water in a marina. So also a nicer way to look at a boat than seeing a boat like the Norene in the shed. You know, the boat in the Norene in the shed had none of the electrical stuff was on. I had a flashlight going around. It's like not a nice way to look at a boat. This boat was fully commissioned in the water, cleaned and like ready to leave the dock. But then I started like, okay, I'm going to start taking things apart now. I'm going to look in lockers. I'm going to look under cushions. I'm going to start looking behind panels, and I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to find stuff that's like thing. Dude, I was giggling. I was giggling when I lifted up one of the cushions on the L-shaped settee. I was like, I wonder what's under here. So I lift up the cushion. Under the cushion is like a centimeter of that insulating material to prevent condensation, like cut out to custom size for that cushion. Every single cushion had that underneath it. I was like, that's cool. You don't see that often. Under that was the furniture in there was all brand new wood. All the wood was redone. It was new. So there's a locker under that first little L-shaped cushion. The locker door had like 5 or maybe 3 centimeter holes cut out for ventilation, fully varnished, completely done. I was like, okay, you don't see that. That's cool. I lift the lid off the locker. I wonder what's in here. Inside this locker, I lift the lid off, and then I was giggling out loud. Inside the locker is the water pump, the accumulator tank for the water pressure system, the fridge compressor, a couple valves for the water tanks, and some wiring for the 220 electrical outlets that are there. Everything was like train tracks. Everything's labeled. All the wiring in the hoses is just so. It's dry as a bone in there. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, love to see it, never see it. What is going on here? I lift up the floorboards, and I have pictures of some of this stuff I'll post on the QUARTERDECK that aren't on that listing I just showed you. I lift up the floorboards. The bilges are like blindingly white. The keel bolts are all exposed, shiny silver stainless. There's the boat is in. So get this, boat is in the water with the mast in. It's a keel step boat. There were spider webs in the bilge. It was so dry. It was dust in the bilge, and as you know how when you have a bilge like that on an old boat, you have the same thing on Eastbjorn where it's kind of a shallow bilge forward, and everything drains through weep holes in the center of the boat back to a bilge sump aft, usually right in front of the engine. That's deeper, where all the water drains to and collects, and then that's where your bilge pump goes. Well, all the weep holes through each of the stringers that held the keel in place were perfectly like centered, painted, and had a wire mesh screen on them.
Oh, wow.
To stop junk draining down into the bilge. You lifted up each floorboard, every area where there was a stringer that a hole was drilled through it had this wire mesh, stainless wire mesh, to prevent junk from going into the bilge. And I'm just like, every step of the way, I'm just like astonished. I called Adam, our bosun, on FaceTime. I was like, Adam, you got to see this. Adam, you got to see this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this electrical panel. Holy shit. So I called the owner, and I was like, hey, can I like turn on the electrical system and start the engine and like mess around? He's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I do that. I fire up the batteries. That beautiful James Bond panel lights up. I turn on the water pump. I turn on the lights. The beautiful LED lights light up, and the water pump, hums beautifully when I run the water in the head. I go to look at the locker under the sink, so the door under the sink where all the sink plumbing is. Again, everything's labeled, everything's there's a manifold under there to select which tank you want to draw from. There's a manifold there's a single foot pump that goes to a manifold for either fresh or salt water with a single tap at the sink. That's mounted on the bulkhead, labeled. Huh. There's from the freshwater tank, there's an inline filter. So the fresh water that comes out from the tank is pre-filtered before it comes in the sink. I'm just like, every step of the way, I lifted the lid off of the top of the stove, and it slides down into this compartment behind the stove. I had a flashlight. I looked behind the stove. Everything's painted. Everything's spotless. There wasn't a crumb. It was astonishing. I was flabbergasted. I was like, how the fuck is this? How did someone do this? This is unbelievable. I called the owner, and I said, man, I gotta compliment you. Like, I said, I've never seen an old, and this is not hyperbole. I've never ever seen an old boat as nice as that one. And he was like brought to tears because he doesn't. I mean, I think he doesn't. He's owned the boat 10 years. Selling a boat's always an emotional thing. But yeah. And he's like, oh, thanks for the compliment, whatever. But I mean it. Like, I've never. You can ask me whatever questions you want, but I have never seen. The boat is perfect. The boat is absolutely immaculate. Every system, everything is just so. It's perfect.
That sounds amazing. It's some people are really kind of more into making boats look really great than they are into the sailing itself. And I think those are the boats that you really, really want to get.
Yeah.
And you could always say that you should have curbed your enthusiasm and maybe not not been so enthusiastic into the owner's face for like a haggling perspective.
I told him that on the phone. I was like, I shouldn't be telling you this, but this boat is fucking amazing.
Yeah, but also I think again, right, because he's selling the boat himself. There's no broker involved, and he clearly loves this boat a lot. And like we discussed, he wants to find somebody who will value that boat and love it like he has done. And so that's definitely gonna be a big part of the sale for him, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I basically, like, if we buy another boat and don't buy this boat, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, there's no reason. I am a complete moron, because this is the boat. These are the deals that you find. And the reason he's selling it is he bought the boat with the intention of long distance sailing, used it for 10 years, and he seems to be about our age. And then just like happens, his life changed. He got a new job and he moved to a different town, and it's just different priorities. And now this is available, and it's just like, this is what you want to find. This is what when we talk about boat shopping, this is what you hold out for. And I found it. So I, if I'm going to take my own advice, if we decide that we want to move on from Spica, there's no point in even looking at anything else, because this is it.
Yeah, it does look very nice. You'll be under a lot of pressure to keep it as nice as it is, though.
So my dad said. My dad's like, well, he's like, that's too nice for you. You're going to wreck it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure to keep the dust in the bilges.
That's right.
Yeah, but that looks nice. It's yeah. It'll be very interesting to hear what you have to say after you've. I
was going to say we'll have to do a postscript next week after I actually take it out for a sail.
Totally, yeah, that'd be very, very interesting. And get as many photos and video and whatever you can. That'd be really interesting to see.
So we're an hour and a half into this. More than almost an hour and 45 minutes into this. It might be the longest Quarterdeck episode ever, but I hope those of you that made it to the end enjoyed that. And all these things we talked about, those of you that didn't see the video, we'll post as much of this as possible on the Quarterdeck, at least until they take the ads down. It should be available. And I'll post the photos that I took when I took there. And, just the last thing I'll say, it's like, when I got there to both of these boats, you usually know within the first few seconds of going on board a boat, is this like a possibility or not? And I knew immediately on the OE36 that, like, yeah, this is a boat someone could buy, or this is a boat I could buy. And I immediately knew the same thing on the Norene. When I went down below, I was like, nope, not happening. Like, you just know, and I actually value those kind of gut feelings quite highly, as everyone listens to this knows that. I make a lot of decisions on gut feeling, and it was a pretty easy gut no on the Norene, and a pretty easy gut yes on the OE.
Yeah, I think that's probably trustworthy, because it's going to be an informed feeling, right? Because it is your sensory information that's getting processed, and there's all kinds of little things you pick up. Smell is also a big part of that, right? When you step aboard a boat.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because neither of these boats had any smell at all. Like, that's a really good sign. A boat that doesn't have a smell is good. And somebody said that about Falcon. They're like, that sailed with us recently. They're like, man, I've never been on a boat that didn't have a smell. This is amazing. It's like, yeah, we fucking keep it clean.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So anyway, let's. Where do we want to wrap this up? Maybe we say we do a postscript after I just a mini episode after I sail the boat next week, and we'll see if I actually buy it or not. I mean, that's the next big question. Are we going to have a new boat by the time this comes out?
That'll be very, very interesting. Yeah, keep us all informed. Like we discussed, boat shopping is the best, and if we can experience this vicariously through you, that'd be great. So share as much as you can the whole way.
All right, thanks, Skipper. This was fun.
This is great. Thanks, Andy. Good luck on your test sail and on everything else.
Okay, hold fast.
Yeah, hold fast. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to join the Quarterdeck, go to quarterdeck.59-north.com. The Quarterdeck podcast is produced by August Sandberg for 59 North. Music is by the Storm Weather Shanty Choir.